Hello, my name is Gary, and I was raised in the Western United States, so I'm a native English speaker. I hope that you will enjoy this YouTube channel. Thank you for joining us.
Chinese imperial robe. The robe was brought to the UK by the owner's grandfather, likely in the early 1930s. At the time, he was the general manager of the Standard Bank in Calcutta, India. It's believed he received it as a gift. Surprisingly, for many years the robe wasn't stored in a display case or protected in any special way. Instead, it was kept in the family's dressing-up box. Dating back to around 1750, the robe is an incredibly rare and significant artifact. It's a woman's robe from imperial China. Pieces like this were reserved for those in the highest ranks of court society. Very few robes of this type have survived, and the only comparable examples are housed in institutions like the Palace Museum in Beijing. This robe truly belongs in a museum. One of the most striking aspects is its color. While bright yellow was traditionally reserved for the empress, the Dowager Empress, or the highest ranking concubines, this robe has a slightly greenish yellow hue, a subtle but distinct variation that still signals imperial status. The design elements confirm its high status. 5 clawed dragons, symbols of the emperor, chase flaming pearls among swirling flame motifs and crashing ocean waves. The craftsmanship is exquisite. Even the inside reveals deep red brocade, a rich, luxurious detail not often seen. The condition is extraordinary, especially considering how poorly it was stored. However, there are a couple of small issues. One of the dragons appears two-toned, which wasn't the original intent. This is likely due to oxidation. The copper in the metallic threads has reacted over time, which can affect the robe's value. Additionally, there's evidence that the bottom hem may have been turned up slightly, shortening the robe. Despite these minor concerns, the robe remains a spectacular piece of history. The decoration continues seamlessly across the back, offering an even clearer picture of how it once looked in pristine condition. If it were to come up at auction today, considering the current market and its rarity, it could fetch around £200,000, possibly even more. And after all that, one thing is certain, this robe will never be going back into the dressing-up box again. What does artifact mean in this context? A type of fabric, a tool used for sewing, a man-made object with historical or cultural value, a piece of clothing worn by royalty. A man-made object with historical or cultural value. What is meant by imperial China? A time when China was ruled by a president, a period of Chinese democracy, a time when China was ruled by emperors, a type of traditional Chinese art. A time when China was ruled by emperors. What does greenish-yellow hue refer to? A fabric texture, a smell from old fabric, a painting style, a yellow color with a slight green tint. A yellow color with a slight green tint. What is a concubine? A servant in a royal household, a woman of lower rank who lived with a man in ancient royal courts, a female soldier, a royal tailor. a woman of lower rank who lived with a man in ancient royal courts? What does oxidation refer to? The process of sewing fabric, a chemical reaction that causes metal to change color or deteriorate, dyeing fabric with natural pigments, weaving fabric with gold threads. A chemical reaction that causes metal to change color or deteriorate. What is a brocade? A kind of gold embroidery, a rich decorative fabric often woven with patterns, a thread used in stitching, a box used to store robes. A rich decorative fabric often woven with patterns. What does pristine condition mean? Slightly damaged but repairable, ancient and faded, perfect original and undamaged state, recently restored using modern methods. Perfect original and undamaged state.
Tibetan Buddha statue from the 18th century. Harry brought in a Buddha statue he was hoping to sell. He explained that it had been a housewarming gift from a friend, but since he wasn't a Buddhist and didn't feel particularly attached to it, he thought it was time to let it go. He had seen a similar piece online listed for $10,000, so that's what he was asking. Rick found the piece intriguing and noted its Tibetan style. While it looked authentic and potentially valuable, he admitted he didn't know enough to accurately assess it, so he called in an expert for a closer look. The expert immediately recognized the statue as Avalokiteshvara, one of the most revered bodhisattvas in Mahayana Buddhism. Known as the one who looks down, Avalokiteshvara embodies compassion and is often depicted with multiple heads and arms, symbolizing his ability to hear and respond to the suffering of all beings across the many realms of existence. This particular statue had 10 small heads stacked above the main one, aligning perfectly with Buddhist mythology, which teaches that Avalokiteshvara listens to the cries of beings in the 10 directions of worlds. He is also commonly shown with multiple arms, sometimes 4, sometimes 1,000, each holding symbolic items or forming protective mudras, hand gestures. These arms represent his limitless ability to reach out and help others. The expert further explained that Avalokiteshvara is not a Buddha, but a bodhisattva, a being who has attained enlightenment but chooses to remain in the cycle of rebirth to help others achieve liberation. The figure's elaborate features, from its delicate facial expression to the flowing hair and gilded surfaces, were hallmarks of mid-18th century Tibetan religious art. Despite some wear and flaking in the gilding, the statue was in remarkably good condition. The expert estimated its age to be from around 1750 and noted that similar pieces had sold at auction in England for anywhere between $10,000 and $15,000. What does housewarming mean in A Housewarming Gift from a Friend? A gift for a wedding, a gift given when someone moves into a new home, a gift that keeps you warm, a holiday celebration. B, a gift given when someone moves into a new home. What does the word assess mean in the sentence, Rick couldn't accurately assess the statue? To estimate the value or quality, to break into pieces, to carry or lift, to hide away. A, to estimate the value or quality. What does revered mean in one of the most revered bodhisattvas? Feared, unnoticed, deeply respected, forgotten. C, deeply respected. What are mudras in forming protective mudras? Buddhist statues, symbolic hand gestures, sacred objects, types of clothing. B, symbolic hand gestures. What does flowing mean when describing hair? Short and stiff, moving smoothly and freely, tied tightly, colored brightly. B, moving smoothly and freely,